The most unsettling event in human history may not have been a war. It may not have been a natural disaster. And it may not have involved a killer, a monster, or a disease. Instead, it began with a dance that should have lasted a few minutes, but didn't. A dance that spread from one person to another, then to dozens more, then to hundreds, until an entire city was trapped inside a nightmare nobody could explain. People danced through the streets. They danced in markets. They danced in public squares. Some danced until they collapsed from exhaustion. Others reportedly danced until they died. And perhaps the strangest part of all, nobody knew why it was happening. More than 500 years later, historians, scientists, and researchers are still searching for answers. Because what happened in the summer of 1518 remains one of the most bizarre and unsettling mysteries in human history. This is the story of the dancing plague of 1518. The story begins in Strasbourg, a city that was part of the Holy Roman Empire, located in what is now modern-day France. In the summer of 1518, life was difficult. Many people lived in poverty. Food shortages were common. Disease was never far away. The population endured constant hardship. Yet nothing could have prepared them for what happened next. According to historical records, a woman named Frau Trophia stepped into the street one July morning. Without warning, she began to dance. At first, nobody paid much attention. People assumed she was celebrating. Perhaps she was entertaining herself. Perhaps she was simply acting strangely. But as the hours passed, something became clear. She wasn't stopping. Hours turned into an entire day. Still she danced. The following morning, she continued. Then another day passed, and another. Witnesses watched in disbelief as Frau Trophia danced through the streets without rest. Her movements became increasingly desperate, yet she seemed unable to stop. Soon, something even stranger began to happen. Other people joined her. One person, then several more, then dozens. Within days, the city found itself facing something completely unprecedented. Men and women who had never met each other were suddenly dancing uncontrollably. They weren't enjoying themselves. Many appeared frightened. Some cried while dancing. Others begged for help. Yet their bodies continued moving. As the number of dancers increased, panic spread throughout Strasbourg. City officials had no idea how to respond. Doctors examined the victims. Religious leaders prayed for them. Citizens watched in fear. But nobody could explain what was happening. Then the situation became even worse. Weeks passed. The number of dancers continued to grow. Historical accounts suggest that hundreds of people eventually became involved. The streets filled with exhausted bodies. Some dancers collapsed. Others suffered injuries. Feet became swollen and bloody. Muscles tore. People fainted from exhaustion. Yet many returned to dancing as soon as they regained consciousness. Authorities desperately searched for solutions. Unfortunately, the solution they chose would make the situation even worse. At the time, many believed the dancers suffered from a condition caused by overheated blood. Doctors suggested that the victims should continue dancing until the illness passed naturally. Officials accepted the advice. Stages were built throughout the city. Musicians were hired. Drummers played rhythms intended to help the dancers. Instead of stopping the phenomenon, they encouraged it. The result was disastrous. The dancing continued. And according to several historical reports, some victims reportedly died from exhaustion, strokes, or heart failure. The city had become trapped in a nightmare without an explanation. Eventually, authorities changed their strategy. Religious leaders became involved. The dancers were taken to shrines. Prayers were offered. Ceremonies were performed. And slowly, the outbreak began to fade. One by one, the dancers stopped. The streets became quiet again. Life returned to normal. But the mystery remained. What had caused hundreds of people to dance uncontrollably? Theories emerged almost immediately. Some believed the event was supernatural. Others believed it was divine punishment. Centuries later, scientists proposed new explanations. One theory suggested that contaminated grain may have exposed people to a hallucinogenic fungus known as ergot. The fungus can produce effects similar to powerful drugs. Perhaps those affected were hallucinating. Perhaps they had lost control of their bodies. But many researchers reject this explanation. The symptoms do not fully match the historical accounts. Another theory points toward mass psychogenic illness, what many people call mass hysteria. The people of Strasbourg lived under extraordinary stress, famine, disease, poverty, religious fear. Perhaps these pressures created a psychological crisis that spread throughout the community. Yet even this explanation leaves questions unanswered. How could hundreds of people dance for days? Why did the outbreak begin so suddenly? And why did it disappear? More than 500 years later, nobody knows for certain. The records remain. The eyewitness accounts remain. And the mystery remains. The dancing plague of 1518 stands as one of the strangest events ever recorded in human history. A real event, a documented event, and one that continues to disturb historians to this day. Because sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are not the ones involving ghosts or monsters. Sometimes the most terrifying mysteries are the ones that actually happened. And in the summer of 1518, an entire city danced into history, leaving behind a question that nobody has ever been able to answer.